This is Silvani Austin Pasaribu, Indonesian diplomat who represents Indonesia in taking the floor to exercise Indonesia's right of reply to the statement made by Vanuatu.
Madam President, I'm taking the floor to exercise Indonesia's right of reply to the statement made by Vanuatu.
It is a shame that Indonesia sent over a diplomat who has zero awareness about what happened in Papua, yet the representative spoke as if she knows the truth. The fact that Pasaribu is living and working in a country far away from Papua contravenes the ideas of her speech of human rights, tolerance, and diversity, which are never found real and true to the people of Papua, because she is never in the shoes of one.
It is shameful that this single country continues to have excessive and unhealthy obsession about how Indonesia should act or govern itself.
To the Indonesian government, Vanuatu might seem to have an excessive and unhealthy obsession about how Indonesia should govern itself. But to Papuan people, over the issue of human rights, Vanuatu shows a genuine alignment regarding the pain and the suffering they've experienced throughout the generations caused by the abusive Indonesian military that have taken thousands of lives of its people.
Frankly speaking, I'm confused. How could a country try to teach others while missing the point of the whole fundamental principles of the United Nations Charter?
Pasaribu projects a passive-aggressive rhetorical question to discredit Vanuatu's qualifications by pointing out to the fundamental principles of the UN Charter, whereas what Vanuatu is trying to convey is nothing but its concern towards the urgent human right issue of the Papuan people, which surely has to be quiet and attention to the United Nations and to the world.
Let me tell them the following. To do what is right is to respect the principles of non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries. And to do what is right, it is to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other countries.
This particular part shows a huge irrelevance towards the actual issue being brought to the table. Vanuatu is concerned about the human rights of the Papuan people. However, the Indonesian diplomat came up with an idea of its sovereignty to act its way as if Indonesia knows how to fix the human rights issues in Papua, which ironically is always caused by its own military under a number of restricted and confidential orders from its first-line political actors. It is shameful that Pasaribu brought up the issue of territory and domestic affairs sovereignty and neglected the real issue of human rights. This obviously reminds us of a nature of colonialism which only cares about expanding territory and exploiting the natives. Ironic.
So until you have done so, please keep the sermon to yourself. Madam President, the President of Indonesia stated a few days ago in this great Hall of Nations, and I quote, "We must promote a win-win approach in building relations among states that is mutually beneficial." Unquote. Indeed, such a call was echoed by world leaders throughout this prominent week. But this ignorant country chooses the contrary. At times of an emergency health crisis and great economic adversity, it prefers to instill enmity and sow division by guising their advocacy for separatism with flowery human rights concern.
It is even more ironic when Pasaribu states that such human rights concern is fake and contains the seduction of separatism during the time of the economy and health crisis in Indonesia, which actually those two issues have rooted deeply in the life of the Papuan people for more than 70 years. Papuan people have been underprivileged in the field of economy and health, and not to mention in education, far before the pandemic took place. The issue arose because of its natural resources being overtaken by Indonesia. This is the core of the problem which stirs Papuan people to open their mouth towards justice and necessary privilege. Unfortunately, they are then silenced with bullets. This is where the issue of human rights became a serious sentiment, not only for the Papuan people, but also for the Melanesian people in general, including for Vanuatu. Only heartless people will feel nothing when seeing their brothers and sisters of the same race being tortured to death.
Indonesia, comprising of more than hundreds of ethnic groups, a diverse and multicultural nation with thousands of tribes and hundreds of local languages, spreading across more than 17,400 islands, is committed to human rights.
Why bother describing Indonesia's geography in a forum where everyone would find it easily at the edge of their thumbs? It's 2020. Data can be found everywhere at any time. What is the point of taking pride in diversity when Indonesia still discriminates against a race that looks, thinks, and feels in a completely different way? Maybe Pasaribu needs to learn more about the dark history of human rights abuse towards the Papuan people rather than the static geographical knowledge which contributes nothing but ignorance to this issue.
We value diversity, we respect tolerance, and everybody has the same right in this third largest democratic country in the world. We have also promoted and protected human rights where each individual has the same rights under the law. Furthermore, we have ratified the International Convention on the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. While interestingly, Vanuatu has not even signed it. And how could one talk about promoting the right of indigenous people when it does not even sign the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the core human rights instrument? This actually raises the question, do they really care about indigenous concern? More importantly, Vanuatu has not signed and ratified the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. We call on the government of Vanuatu to please fulfill your human rights responsibility to your people and to the world.
We value diversity? Lie. We respect tolerance? Lie. Everybody has the same human rights? Lie. Those three statements can be true to most Indonesian people, but not to the Papuans. Papuans have always been on the bottom list when it comes to receiving the three ideas mentioned.
Madam President, the accusation of human rights is typical. A tall tale that they sell and stage over the years in the hall. Let me tell them, you are no representation of the people of Papua. And stop fantasizing of being one.
The accusation of human rights is typical. What a disgrace towards the lives of the innocent people of Papua who were gunned down. Disrespectful. Vanuatu is one of the countries in which the people are the happiest and live in a peace. But if this issue has been brought to their attention, it would have meant this issue has never been taken seriously by the government of Indonesia, and that is why Vanuatu took the stand to voice out its concern. Shame on you, colony.
Papuans are Indonesians. All of us play an important role in the development of Indonesia, including on the island of Papua. Madam President, the principles of the UN Charter, which Vanuatu clearly does not seem to understand, stipulates the respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. Indonesia will defend itself against any continuing advocacy of separatism conveyed under the guise of artificial human rights concern. The provinces of Papua and West Papua are irrevocable parts of Indonesia since 1945. It has also been firmly endorsed by the United Nations and the international community decades ago. It is final, irreversible, and permanent.
This whole thing said by the Indonesian diplomat is nothing but a standard rhetoric, old story being told over and over and over again on such platform as to continue faking the wholeness of the country by embracing the people of Papua, when all they do is only embracing the richness of the natural resources of the island and the people of Papua. Lastly, when other countries remind you about the human rights of the people you've been abusing all this time, both in action and in negligence, and you came up with the issue of territory and domestic affairs sovereignty as a response, it points out to nothing but to the nature of a colony.